conversational then.
All right, sounds good. Well, you all heard the boss, so use that chat function. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all again for joining us today. We're lucky to have Micah Wimmer here to speak with us about how to look our best on Zoom, something we can definitely all use. Thank you, Micah, for presenting this very important topic for us all. I have just a little bit of housekeeping, as always, before I turn it over to Micah. If you would please make sure your name, not your phone number, is on your Zoom sign-in. That is for CLE credit purposes. Our session is being recorded for future viewing, so we do ask that you keep your microphones muted during the presentation. But as you heard, please put any questions that you have into the chat box here on Zoom, and we'll do our best to work them into the presentation. The materials for today's session are on the ACBC website. As always, they've also been placed here in the chat, and we'll get them there in the chat again momentarily for those of you who have just recently joined. Towards the end of today's session, we're also going to put the CLE certificate in the chat function here on Zoom. That's the only place you're going to find it, so be sure to grab that CLE certificate when we post it. We will make a verbal announcement that it is time to grab that certificate. Make sure that the PDF designation saves with the file, otherwise it won't work right. If you can't see the PDFs in the chat box within the next 5 minutes or so, please let us know. Either type your email address into the chat or send us an email to admin@acbcforum.org, and that way we can email those documents over to you. Micah, thank you again. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you much, Crystal. Before I get started, I had a quick question for Lisa while you're here. Lisa, do you have your ring light currently turned on?
I do not, but I can do it for you.
Please not yet.
Okay.
There'll be a perfect chance. I just noticed that you didn't have it on, wanted to confirm. It'll be great to add in a little bit later.
I was trying to avoid the glare on my glasses because I do not have my Zoom appropriate glasses. I chose
to see great add-in. Perfect.
So.
All right, well, I'm going to jump in then. We're 3 minutes past the hour, and we have a lot of information to go over. So my name is Micah Wimmer, and the reason why I'm kind of here is not only do I love talking to all of you folks, but I love presenting. And I present either virtually, I present in person, I've taught, I've mentored, and I do consulting. And I help people with interview prep, presentation skills, public speaking, etc. So this not only is a little easier for me to do, but a lot of fun because I employ all the techniques that I'm going to tell you about today. Not only am I employing some of them today, but I also teach them to other people to use them successfully. So now that you know why I'm kind of here, we're going to have to, there we go. Why are you here? So this presentation was entirely different 2 days ago. I scrubbed it and started from scratch because I received these 2 documents via email. Why are you here? Well, one, it turns out that a lot of these, our bankruptcy cases will be done virtually. And then the doc on the right, it appears that your clients will be expected to attend virtually. So I'm not as worried about the lawyers here on this call. You've had enough time, enough experience to learn, but the tips and tricks today will help you get better. But I wanted to kind of gear this towards how you could prep your client more. Tips and tricks you can give to a newbie, someone that they're going through a stressful situation and now they're expected to use some technology, show up on video and speak to a trustee or to you through a new medium, right? And we want them to show up their best, you as well, but more so them, right? So that's why I'm here. That's why you're here. Let's kick off. What is important? So we're presenting from any room.
Micah, let me interrupt for a second. Is everyone else seeing the black line above and the black line in the middle of the text, or is that just me?
I am too.
Yeah, we are
too.
So somehow,
Black
Mike,
line.
the presentation is giving you.
There's a up at the very top. There's a black thing across that cuts out half the presenting, and now you just moved a box that is and it cuts out everything behind it.
Excellent. Well, let us fix that. So share. Let's see if we can fix this quick.
Showing off your skills.
Yes. Did that? You should be looking at the title screen. Did
It's the
that fix
title
it?
screen, but there's still, do you want me to take a picture of it and send it to you?
No, I know what you're seeing. And this is new for Zoom doing this. So we're gonna do it a different way. Yeah, good. Should have stopped. Back to you, Lisa. We're gonna fix this. We're gonna fix it now. Fixed?
Still there.
No, I can see the preview.
It's like it's text blocks, but they're black.
You know what these are? I will tell you. They are the Zoom controls that are for some reason shadowing over the presentation.
Oh, that's not good.
That's what those are right now.
Would you like me to run the presentation from my end, Micah? I could. Because I don't have an Apple.
Well, I could also. Wait, you said you don't have an Apple?
Yes. Is that what you're on as a Mac device, Apple device?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Sorry, I pick on you then.
How'd that do?
You just move that. Oh,
There
we go.
now they're all gone.
Don't do anything.
Yeah, don't do anything. Everybody hold your
Whatever
breath.
you did.
There
Okay.
it
Yay. Okay, we're good.
Got it.
Do you over?
Thank you for letting me know. The complication, and I'm glad we're doing this live so others can see. Can you hear me fine? Can you see me fine? Can you see the presentation fine?
Yes.
Perfect. I have all controls hidden. I can no longer see you, so we're going by voice alone on my end. So, perfect. We're going to continue on. Thank you, Diane, for letting me know, because that would have been super annoying for you guys. So, going back into it, presenting from any room, the first question is, does location matter? And occasionally I'm going to stop and kind of ask this question out loud. And now, since I can't see anyone, I'm gonna pick on Lisa because I know she's there. Lisa, does location matter when you're presenting on video?
It does not have to matter depending on what you do with your background. Or what you have behind you.
Yeah, so I'm going to challenge you a little bit. I'm going to say that location actually matters a lot unless you add a few things to mitigate some of the things that location gives you, especially a poor location. So today, one of the things that we're going to kind of focus on first is location, because that's the biggest thing. If you don't have lighting, if you don't have the correct sound equipment, then being in an echoey open room versus being near construction is definitely going to impact your presentation or your appearance on camera. So today we're going to focus on location as the primary, because our connection type, our sound, our background lighting, the device we might choose to use, clothing, some behavior might change depending on where we're physically located to do said presentation. So we're going to start with physical location, because that does truly affect everything we're going to talk about. Now, a lot of you here on camera, you're sitting at a desk, you already have a home office setup, but a client appearing for the first time might not. So in their case, are they going to be appearing from home? And if so, in the room they're in, do they have an internet dead zone? Are they using weak or just poor Wi-Fi? Can that be changed? Is there construction outside? Or are they in an office or a location with background noise? And for this, I think of, I used to meet a lot with C-suites that for some reason, C-suites like to meet virtually, but they like to go to restaurants or diners and things like that. That background noise can definitely be distracting during those types of meetings. Background considerations, when to choose digital over just a natural background, and lighting. Do you need fill or key lighting? And we'll go over those terms. Is your lighting harsh or soft? And what are the repercussions of using harsh or soft lighting? And tips and tricks to get and switch between the two. PC versus cell phone, does that matter? It might, depending on the location that you choose. Your clothing, does this matter on video? It most certainly does. And then behavioral considerations. Are you too comfortable on screen? Do you look bored? Do you appear to be paying attention? Or are you distracted and you're checking out what's going on outside a window that might be providing your lighting? So we're going to take all of this holistically from a location point of view and talk about all of these in depth to see how location impacts that and what we can do when we want to be a little bit less tied to a location. We don't want to be at a setup desk, but maybe we want to present from the kitchen or a den or even outside. Or maybe your client has to go to a Starbucks and use public Wi-Fi for their meeting. What could they do to make that a better experience for all involved? So we're going to talk about home a lot, or location a lot, and we're going to actually go back to it because I think it's pretty easy to see that location is going to matter, but it's going to matter based on all these individual factors we talk about. And the first one is going to be the connection type that we're going to choose to use. So right here, this small little article on 5G's transformative impact on video conferencing. And what this basically means for some of you that aren't as techie, cellular reception, right? Some of you are old enough to have had Edge and then see the advent of 2G, 3G. We were really excited for 4G, and now we're seeing a lot of this 5G. And 5G is an amazing speed, but should we be using 5G for video conferencing? So one of the reasons why we talk about kind of the choice of internet connection is because depending on where you are in your house, you might not be able to hardwire into your internet. You might only have access to Wi-Fi, or you might only have access to 5G, which is better. And if you had a choice of all three, what are you going to choose? I personally like Wi-Fi and or 5G because it allows me to have more locations. I can tether to a device and I can present from a kitchen table, from a breakfast counter, from outdoors, or from a cafe. Whereas Ethernet, I'm pretty locked into one location, even though that might be my best option. So my next kind of question for the group, and Lisa, if you don't feel like being picked on and you want to pick on someone else that might be on cam and participating, my next question is, does our internet choice affect anything else other than location and speed?
Well, if it's going to cut out, I think that that's a huge problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to ask you, because Micah, you know that I'm not a tech person. Could you please explain to me, the uneducated, like, what is my Wi-Fi or my 5G or my Ethernet? Because I'm unclear.
Perfect. And I'm going to actually, I'll get to that in the next slide.
I am so sorry.
Some numbers. No, not at all. That is a great question because it matters, right? So
It sounds cool, but I'm not sure what I have, really.
We're gonna break that down. So yeah, the choice between these, mainly your internet speed and your connection quality, it's going to affect the stability from your video and audio quality to something even more important that we don't often think about, but I think we need to ethically for our clients, overall utility cost. And here's why. So these are a lot of numbers. Please don't focus on the numbers. I'm gonna break it down for you. But these are from Zoom's website. We're using Zoom today, so I thought these would be fitting. And these are approximately the required internet speed for your upload or download to engage in a few of these activities. And then on the right, you have a connection type and your typical download speed. Because there's a lot here, let's focus. If we were only going to engage in a one-on-one video call, you could see here that you have a choice of 480p, 780p. There's sending and receiving video at 1080p. These are just resolutions. 480p, really, really small file, small video, okay quality. 780, a lot better quality, typically considered high def at that point. And 1080p, you could put your video on a big screen. And these are the typical data rates that you need to sustain that. Now, the big thing to note here is that no matter what internet connection type, you could see on the right, these megabits per second, that's what the Mbps is. Megabits, all of these are larger than the kilobits or the megabits per second on the left. So it doesn't matter what type of internet connection you're using, they can all support what we're doing here on Zoom. Now, to break down this right side, and this goes to Lisa's question. So you have different internet connection types. It's all the same internet, just how you receive it's different. So the top of the list, we have fiber, cable, and DSL. These are traditionally our internet that's coming into our home or office. They're coming in through some sort of cable. That cable is being plugged into a router, and then you're either plugging cables into individual computers, and that's what when I talk about Ethernet, that's that physical connection. You're either getting it through your fiber, cable, or DSL service. Most these days have cable. Fiber super expensive, but you might be lucky to have it. Whereas 5G and 4G, 5G and 4G are cellular internet connection, data connection protocols. So if you're accessing Gmail or doing a Zoom call on your cell phone and you're not connected to a Wi-Fi hotspot, you're using 5G or 4G. You're using your cell phone service to transfer data. Your fixed wireless is simply going to be, it doesn't matter what your internet source is, but let's say it's fiber, cable, or DSL. So your main internet lines coming into your home. And you're like, I want a Wi-Fi router. I want to be able to use all of my electronics on Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi limits that speed of your internet connection because you've added an additional factor. You're going through the air and communicating back and forth wirelessly. Satellite is similar to fixed wireless. If you have a little satellite puck that can receive satellite internet, you're going to connect that to your computer and it'll act just like wireless. So you can see here that there's different speeds. So these are typical download speeds. So for fixed wireless, which is what I use, 5 to 100 megabits per second. 5G though is 40 to 1100 and cables 25 to 1000. So knowing nothing else, which do you think is the best connection out of these three to use for video and audio? Lisa or anyone else?
I would say cable if you can.
Lisa
Right.
says cable. I heard another voice kind of come in there. Who else had an idea?
That was me. It's Crystal. I said 5G.
Ah, Crystal, you said 5G. So for you, Crystal, why did you say 5G?
Oh, just like the speeds, typical download speeds are going to be a little bit faster with the 5G.
Okay. And Lisa, why did you say cable?
Because in my experience, it's more consistent because it's fixed.
Yeah, both of you are absolutely right. 5G does have better speeds when you have signal, when you have a great connection, and your service provider isn't, well, we won't get into names and disparage any particular company, but there are days where it's cloudy and it will affect cellular signal in at least my location. Whereas cable, as long as you don't lose internet, it's a solid connection. The reason why we're spending so much time on these numbers, though, gets to the salient point of why Crystal might think 5G is great and why you might not want to recommend that to, for instance, your client. So you saw typical speeds, but what does it actually mean when we use them? So we're on a group video call today, and right now I'm projecting at least at 1080p, which means that through my internet connection, I'm using upwards of 2.5 gigabytes of data for this hour. Now, add on screen sharing, it's another 22.5 megabytes. Add on anything else that might go into this. The more data you add in, the more data you're going to use. So I'm projecting video, I'm projecting screen share, I'm also projecting audio. I will use 3+ gigs throughout this presentation. Now I'm using my home wireless setup, so I have unlimited data. It matters not. Would this matter if you were using 5G though? Crystal, question to you.
Crystal went away. I'll answer. Yes, it would matter.
Why?
If you don't have an unlimited data package, you might be limited in what you can do.
Exactly. And that's kind of the salient point I want everyone to come away from the slide. If you're recommending to somebody to use 5G and they don't have an unlimited data plan, or they have a data plan that caps after so many gigs per month, they're using their data for video, right? Watching YouTube or Netflix or whatever, which uses a lot of data. You could put them in a position to go over their plan, or in the middle of a Zoom presentation, they hit their data cap. And it probably won't kill their internet. It'll just what's called throttle it. And your ISP will vastly reduce your speed until your month refreshes. So want to toss that out there on what we think is best. I personally like wireless or wired because of this data fact. But if I were out at a cafe, I'm going to use this. But I'm going to check to make sure I have enough data for those 2 hours for my presentation. Does it matter if we're using 720 versus 1080 other than the data that we're using? And that's a personal choice. But here's kind of a comparison between standard definition video and high definition. You do get more blurry, and you get what's called artifacts that come into your image. So I can't see myself right now to demonstrate it, but I'm using Wi-Fi, which means if I move a little too fast, my hat is going to go in and out of focus, and my virtual background is going to have artifacts. That's because I'm using wireless, and I'm dropping a few frames in that transfer. If I were hardwired, would not be a problem whatsoever. So once you figured out what you're going to choose, and for most people, it's just, I have Wi-Fi, I'm going to choose that, done. Great. You know, we're going to do with that. So what next is most important? It's going to be sound. It's almost always going to be sound. The reason why is simple. I can present to you with my voice only. I can show up to a court appointment, technically voice only. It might not be great, but I can. Adding the video component on is an add-on. So if you don't have voice, you don't have anything. So we want to start with sound. Now, most people are like this, understanding your noise profile. What does that mean? It's just background. I want you to take a moment later when you have a chance and take an audio recorder or your cell phone, works perfectly, and record about 30 seconds of background sound to play back to yourself. And then come up with a canned statement like, you know, hello, my name is Micah Wimmer, and today we're going to be talking about presenting your best self via Zoom. I'm going to say that over another 30-second recording with the same background noise. And I want to listen to hear, what don't I hear when I'm speaking? What I mean by that is that your brain will subtract out common noises that are around your home or place of business or wherever. And you're like, I don't hear the thing that could be in the background persisting as a distraction. It could be a tapping, it could be a dishwasher. In my case, I know that you can't hear this, but I have an air handler. I live in an older home. Air handler is just outside the hallway. I have to change my TV from a sound setting of 4 to 9 when that turns on to understand voice. I've lived here long enough where that's subtracted out of my brain. I can't hear the air handler when it goes off. But if I did not have noise canceling right now, it would sound like there's a blower blowing right into my microphone right next to me. Will you understand me? Yes. Will you be happy about it? Probably not. Something I couldn't realize until I went through an exercise just like this. What do you hear in the background that's ambient? Those are the things that you want to remove. So once you've understood your noise profile, what can you do about it? And one, every webcam has a built-in microphone, right? Your laptop's a built-in microphone. Aftermarket webcam's going to have a built-in microphone. Your cell phone is going to have a built-in microphone. Are any of them great? I'm gonna answer that for you now. They are great for this exercise of recording pure background sound. They generally don't do well with noise canceling, and they don't know what to pick up, so they pick up everything. Something that's a little bit better is using a plug-in headset. Most cell phones come with one. You can get them pretty cheap. The problem with plug-in headsets is often you have your ears, so you can hear the presentation perfectly, but your mic is often dangling somewhere in the fabric of your clothing. So if you move and that mic's bouncing around, your audience is going to hear that. Something a little bit better is going to be a Bluetooth headset. You're removing that wire, you're removing things that get caught, but you have to remember to charge it. And then we get to the creme de la creme. This is the best thing that I'm going to recommend. And if nothing else today, there's only 2 things you really need to get out of this presentation. One of them is going to be a Bluetooth headset with something called ANC, or active noise canceling. Active noise canceling is going to kick in. It takes a baseline of what it hears and simply subtracts it out. It knows it can hear your voice and will amplify and modulate your voice. So you're not going to hear, if I were tapping right now, you're not going to hear it. My air handler's on, you can't hear it. If I had a dog barking, you probably wouldn't be able to hear it. and that is ideal. So location of where you're going to present is going to be a little less important when you have a 100% handle on the sound. But this comes with a very, very important caveat. The more tech we invest in, the more Bluetooth devices we have laying around, the worse it gets for presenting, and no one tells you about this. You find out on your own, and you're like, this is why my life's been miserable. And what I'm talking about is when you have a home setup, you have a laptop, you have an additional screen, maybe you push that laptop a little bit further out and you've got a wireless keyboard, you have a wireless mouse, and they work perfectly. And you're like, hey, I want to add in a Bluetooth headset. Well, your wireless Bluetooth or your wireless mouse and your wireless keyboard are also using Bluetooth. And fun fact, by default, Bluetooth is only a dual channel device. It can only handle a simultaneous connection between two devices and that Bluetooth chip. So if you then, right, you have your keyboard, you've been typing, you've got your mouse working, you've got your headset. Now you start a meeting, you don't touch your mouse, you don't touch your lap or your keyboard, and you're talking fine on your headset. Only one device is being used by Bluetooth. The moment you use your mouse to focus on something, everything's fine. But now you go and you touch a key on your keyboard and your voice goes robotic. That's simply because you now have 3 devices competing for only 2 available channels. Easy solution, only have one Bluetooth device connected, or you can buy a small Bluetooth dongle, plug it in, and now you have the option of connecting up to 4 Bluetooth devices simultaneously to that machine without issue. So no one will tell you this, but I've seen it time and again. And one of the most reiterated facts that I bring up to people like, why do I sound this way? How many devices do you have connected? So if you're using PC or Mac, do not use more than 2 devices simultaneously. So you get a Bluetooth headset with active noise control. Your sound is good. That's really the only thing that matters on sound. Before anyone asks which headset is best, a decent one with active noise canceling. I prefer earbuds over wired headsets because of previously stated reasons, not having that wire, that connection, pulling on things, or having a microphone bounce. You can spend $30, you can spend $300. For that hour or 2 hours you might be on a call, they're not going to be able to tell the difference. The audience, I mean. So don't over-index on what should I be spending money on. Headset, cheapest headset will work. So once you get sound, we're talking about now a background because
Micah,
yes,
question on back on the keyboard, the mouse, and the headset. So
yes,
I can only use my keyboard or I can use my mouse, but I sure don't do both at the same time. So what is the bleed over time between me switching from using my keyboard? I've got my headset on, switching from using my keyboard to just using the mouse or vice versa. Will there be an overlap that'll interfere or what?
So the device will only maintain 2 simultaneous connections. So there is a time that when you try to use a headset that it's going to take time to switch over. The problem isn't the amount of time it takes to switch over. The problem is it will never switch over correctly for the headset versus keyboard or mouse. So if I have, let's say I'm using my headset and my mouse right now and not the keyboard. The moment I go to hit a key on a wireless keyboard, that's going to be an input that the Bluetooth is going to recognize and instantly work for. The moment you move your mouse, it'll also recognize that. But because your headset just kind of sits in stasis, kind of listens for sound, but it's also canceling sound, it doesn't ever know when to pick up again. So the best advice that I have is that if you're using wireless keyboard and mouse and you want to use a Bluetooth headset, they're about $4.99 for a Bluetooth USB dongle. You just plug it into a USB port on your computer, and you connect your Bluetooth headset to that USB port only, and everything else to the first one, and they will never crosstalk again.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Before I move on, anyone else have questions on sound? All right.
Michael, I have a quick one.
Yeah.
So I have a headset that connects to a holder on the desk. The holder on the desk is hardwired to the computer.
Mhm.
So am I using Bluetooth to talk to the computer, or is it talking to the base that sits on my desk?
It's completely hardwired going to the base in your desk and not a concern for you.
Great, thank you.
You're quite welcome. Awesome. So background, what makes a good background? This is important. So if you have a decent internet connection, right, you're solid. If you have active noise canceling or hardwired headset, something that kills background sound, your sound is great. Now you're going to ask that client to turn video on. That is going to be their first impression that they're going to make to that audience, right? The trustee or whomever might be in the room. So let's start here. These are some great examples of a decent versus great effort with some abnormalities here. So quick pause, but on this decent effort panel on the left, which is the best looking presenter in your opinion?
I would say the top middle. It just looks cleaner and more inviting, centered, and not a lot of stuff in the background.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what would you consider to be the worst photo in the left panel?
Personally, the guy with all the magnets.
Why?
I just want to read them or look at them.
Yeah, that's brilliant because I agree with you. Anytime you have a lot of clutter in the background, all I want to do is see what's on your bookshelf. I want to, when I get bored or I'm on mute and it's not my turn, I want to see what's going on. But not only that, it's cluttered. And could the individual with all the stickers and magnets have done something about it? I would say so, right? So all of these are a decent effort. You're absolutely correct. The worst one is the person with the fridge. And if you had a client that was presenting this way, simple. That might be the best location in your house for connection, noise, privacy, etc. Can you just remove all those magnets? Put them in a box for, right, your time on camera? Or arrange like 2 or 3 of your favorites so it looks nice in the background. These are all within that individual's control, but no one thinks of these things. So it's our job, whether consulting or giving some advice, on letting people know in video, this is what I see. Do you have a chance to, move that? Look how much better that looks. So let's go over to the right. So I said that was decent. This was great. What is the best panel, best presenter in the right panel? Anyone?
Bottom right corner. Very little.
Bottom right corner.
Bottom left.
We got a bottom left. We got a fight going on. Anyone else want to go for, top right, top left?
I like bottom right.
Yeah. Why, Lisa, do you like bottom right?
I don't know, it just seems really clean and simple. The bricks are like, I know that they're bricks. I find it aesthetically pleasing.
So does that matter? Does aesthetically pleasing matter for you as an audience member watching someone for an extended period of time? Personally, to you?
Well, yes. I just
That
find
wasn't
it
a trick
pleasing.
question. That's more people.
I mean, think about it. Like if you're looking at something and it's really annoying in the background, I have an opinion about that. And even if I'm supposed to be neutral, I'm not. I'm going to be like, okay, that's a really ugly painting. Like I don't like that.
Yeah.
That's a really ugly 100 stickers or magnets or whatever they are.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. It's
Now, the guy
distracting.
is wearing a headset, which doesn't actually really bother me in this day and age, especially if I can hear him very well.
That's
Yeah.
actually why I picked him over the girl in the pink shirt on the bottom left, because I felt he was better prepared and we were going to hear him really well and he was going to hear us.
Yeah, I love headsets for that same reason.
And I'm going to throw a wrench in because I think the top middle. And the reason is that the problem I'm having with the guy on the bottom corner is his shirt's all unbuttoned and we see his t-shirt.
Ah,
And I
Yeah, I
like
can
the
see how
bottom left
contrast
because
can
there's
matter
nice
there.
contrast, but nothing in the background that is distracting. The
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
speaker stands out. There's a pleasant background, but nothing, you don't want to zoom in and see what the magnets say. Just it's a very neutral background, but she is well contrasted with the background.
Yeah, see, these are all amazing points, and all of these are fantastic except for one of them. I think we can tell which one it is, right? So there's always that one person. Don't be that guy. The reason why I mention this, we can all look up Zoom fail videos on YouTube, and I love seeing some of them. And one came up a couple weeks ago where a gentleman was appearing for his suspended license hearing, and he shows up on Zoom while driving, needs the court to give him a few minutes so he can go and park on his suspended license hearing. So that went over really well, as you could possibly imagine. But you've also heard probably about, the gentleman that had a cat filter stuck on because he was playing with that, or the surgeon that showed up to traffic court during surgery via Zoom. I say don't be that guy. So all of these points we brought up, why the right panel is actually great compared to the rest, you can kind of see the parallels here, the commonalities. We have less clutter in the background. We have less to look at in the background. We have better contrast. I love that we picked out clothing because the person bottom right could be meeting, could be a techie, could be anyone meeting at work, and that could be part of the dress code and perfectly fine. Whereas you might appreciate the person in the top middle to show up to court, right? There's one other huge difference between all of the images on the right panel than the left panel. Does anyone see what that is?
Lighting.
I think it's
Lighting's a huge
the,
one, but
I think it's
Lisa?
the three,
The angle or sorry.
it's more of their faces in the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
they're just
third person.
centered.
Yeah. Biggest thing. This is what makes the right panel great versus decent. And both of you hit it right in the nail. You can't zoom into the background to see what's in the background because they're already zoomed in. So when I tell someone that's like, Micah, you talk about framing. How am I supposed to frame myself in the video? And I could talk about the rule of thirds. I could talk about a lot of video or photography techniques, or I could just tell the person that I'm giving advice to, make it look like a passport photo. Take up as much of that frame as you can with head and shoulders. And if it looks kind of like a passport photo and it's clear, you are good. Not only is it focusing on you, not only is it taking stuff to look at in the background, but every single one of these presenters looks naturally more confident because they're closer to their camera.
The problem with that for a debtor is you can't necessarily see them raise their hand to take the oath.
I disagree. Every single one of them can show a palm forward next to face. Do you need the elbow in there? And if so, could you lean back or step back for that and then
Just
give them
make
the
it.
Yeah.
I
advice to then come back?
just wanted to
That
make
makes
the
sense.
point. Just wanted to make the point.
It's a good
Oh,
point.
it's a great point. Yeah, because you're going to give them advice on what they should be doing. And
Mhm.
if they need to step back, great. Take their oath and then step back in. Small little mental note to remember. And if anyone's prepped at all, they're going to do better than the people that just generally show up, right? So if you're giving someone all of this advice and they only pick up on 2 pieces, they're still going to show up better than if they had not received it.
I
So
have a question.
yeah,
I've always avoided the light in the background, like the guy in the top middle, but I see
Mhm.
you've got pretty good light behind you. Is this just a difference of opinion, or are there some pointers there?
there are some. You're amazing. We're going to get into that in 2 slides.
Okay.
So
Micah, as
yes.
far as the size, I mean, right now I'm sitting, 18 inches away from my camera. But that's where my monitors are spread out on my desk. If I was to move closer, I would literally have to get up in my chair and move closer to the camera. Do most cameras have an adjustment that you can make to make you bigger?
When you go up in price, yes. So a $200 webcam will have a zoom, a dynamic zoom, that from your preview screen, you can literally zoom in to frame yourself. Your default cameras do not. And just rough rule of thumb, your camera should be never more than 1 arm's length away from you.
Right, it's that. And I assume what's behind me right now is just too noisy as far as it needs to be less cluttered.
Less cluttered will always bring out the subject more, which is you. And we always want to see more of you, Diane, and not your background.
Okay.
Because your background's more fascinating than you are. That's a whole different thing that distracts. So we just take these things out of people's hands, right? We over-engineer it, we show up, we tell them what to do, they show up great, everyone's happy.
Okay, thank you.
And I think Micah, I think you're talking about not using your computer built-in camera, but like just getting a camera, because then you could adjust how close or how far it is from you. Correct?
Right now, we haven't gotten into that yet. Nope, we're just talking about
sorry.
default webcams, default cell phone cams right now.
Okay.
We've hit, and this is a great point to bring up, though an aside, this isn't 15 years ago, where things like Zoom were still around, and you needed extra tech, you needed specific processors, specific computers to do all of these great things. In this day and age, you do not. So I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit because, Crystal, you're using a Mac, right?
We can't hear you, Crystal. She's laughing.
No, sir. So I couldn't get to my mute button fast enough. No, I'm not.
Oh, well, fine. You're not my friend anymore. Anyone that has a MacBook Pro that's within the past 6 to 8 years, the MacBook Pro's camera is actually better than some webcams that you'll spend $100 on. And the actual sound, like the microphone part of MacBook Pro, is better than most headsets. Not most, but many headsets you'll get. MacBook Pros were kind of built up for that remote office worker, creative individual that would take a lot of meetings remotely. Some PCs are, like some laptops are as well, and you can get away with just using the default hardware. Your default webcams on a laptop, a cell phone, what have you, an iPad is plenty for what we're doing. Adding on the sound component, and we'll be getting here shortly to lighting, are the two things that save your money on the webcam, use it on sound and lighting. So we'll jump ahead. When we get there, I'll reiterate that when we get there. So before we jump to lighting, what makes a good background? I threw up here, virtual versus green screen versus nice wall. Obviously, the free ones are nice. But if you use a nice wall, great. You've got to find the nice wall. You've got to make sure it's well lit, that you're not going to have any distractions with it. You might not have that flexibility. Whereas a virtual background, if you have decent lighting, you can use it anywhere. I've kind of negated green screen in this presentation because a green screen was better than either of these 5 years ago. But now it's really just something extra that you're gonna have to bring with you. So your virtual background, for one, you can find a nice one that complements you, your style. It hides any mess that's behind you. Their setup is certainly more portable since you can take it with you, cell phone, computer, anywhere. You can look more professional with a virtual background, especially with a little effort. And especially for the attorneys here, if ethical, depending on the presentation or where you are, you can use any image behind you. You can brand it. Leave a little bit of information there, right? It's really what you put in. I heard a doctor and some robot voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Wendy Carter. I'm a paraprofessional, well, paralegal, whatever. But I think it's a virtual background that you're using. If you move, you cut in and out, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one of the issues that I find? I mean, does that happen to everyone?
It happens to everyone, and I on purpose kept that cut out today to demonstrate that point of this is an
Mhm.
artifact of using wireless. Because I'm using Wi-Fi and I'm not perfectly plugged in, it's dropping some of those frames.
Okay.
Now, if I plug in, or if I add 3 more lights to my setup, I can completely negate that for the few times that you see it happening when I'm moving. So if I'm going to give a very animated presentation, I'm going to use a lot more lighting and a more stable internet connection versus trying to stay a little bit more still.
Mhm.
Everyone gets that artifacting unless you have a $200 webcam, 4 lighting setup, and a really decent PC, and probably a green screen. You'll never 100% negate those artifacts. Now, a nice wall will never have any of those artifacts, but if your lighting's off and you have harsh shadows behind you, that's more distracting than occasionally my hat fades in and out. So kind of what I want to say, I'm promoting virtual backgrounds because I think more people will live with a little bit of artifact than a shower curtain or a bed in your background or kids playing. So virtual background or green screen are going to follow really the same advice, which is always going to be about lighting. The second biggest thing to take away from this, if you have active noise canceling for sound, you only need one more thing for lighting to pretty much be perfect for picture and sound. So we'll do the same thing again. It's pretty obvious, but what is the best image in the left panel? Lisa?
I'm going to go with the one on the right.
Yeah, just to be obvious, but why?
Because I can see everything. There's no shadows.
Yeah, and so let's go to the right panel. Best image?
I like the one with the soft light myself.
And why?
The other one has a big shadow on it.
Yeah.
And it's someone with dark hair. The shadow makes you look like it can make you look weird, like that you have something on your head.
Yeah. The difference between these, right? For our 3-point lighting, we have 1, 2 to 3 lights, so we're killing shadows. On the right here, this harsh versus soft light. Your soft light, it's a really easy trick to get soft light, is almost akin to a beauty filter. Not only are you going to get rid of all harsh shadows, but it's going to soften features. So the individual on the right, the soft light image, she looks a little bit better to me. She doesn't look maybe as tired or anything else that you can pick out of a picture with harsh lighting. And that's what we want. Instead of using a filter, if we can use the proper lighting and soft lighting, we can do so many things. How do we create these though? It's not that difficult. It looks difficult, so bear with me. The 3-point lighting, this diagram, I love it because it's the proper 3-point lighting for a person in a pitch black room with no natural light. That's it. If you're in a pitch black hole and you need to light something, 3 lights set up in this configuration will kill all of those shadows. Do you need a 3-point lighting setup to accomplish great video? The answer is no. And the reason why is look at the placement of these lights. You have your key light. Your key light's always going to be your brightest light, and it's going to be the one that's illuminating the subject, you. That fill light, which is also coming from the front, that is what's softening shadows along features of your face. And your backlight is simply killing any shadows that those front 2 lights are throwing forward. If you happen to be in a very well-lit room, that will take the place of potentially that backlight and even the key light. And you may only need 1 light, that fill light, to get rid of shadows or to bring out some highlights on your face. When you go over to the diffusing or softening of light, that one's even easier. If you take a flashlight and you just shine it at a wall, it's a harsh light. You put your hand in front of it, you have a solid shadow of your hand. Put just a piece of paper in front of that light, and you've now diffused that light. You can use an empty opaque milk jug. put a flashlight in it, tape it up, dark room, you've diffused the light. That is all that we're talking about with softening light, is that you don't use a harsh halogen light directly on a subject. You might not have a piece of paper, toilet paper, something ready with you to block that harsh light, right, to diffuse it. So the little panel on the lower right just shows that you could bounce light off a ceiling, off a wall. Indirect light is also soft light. So it's really easy to mimic a 3-point lighting system with one light and diffusion. Most lighting issues that you can ever come into contact with can be fixed for less than 30 bucks. It's as simple as that. As long as you're not in a pitch black room where you need multiple lights, if you're in an office with overheads, if you're in a well-lit area with ambient light, you're just tweaking, right? So you can see down here on the panel, the difference between like fluorescent light, which is what a lot of like offices might have, versus not enough light, you're underexposed. Too dark, backlight too strong. This is what happens when your light source is behind you. And the number one rule is never have your main light source behind you. So the image of the individual that had a great background, but had a window behind him and he was backlit, that served the same thing as his backlight, which means for you to see him correctly, he needed a key light and a fill light, or a giant picture window with more light in front of him, or else he would have been washed out and more of a silhouette in that picture. Had he just turned around and put the camera between him and that window, he might not have needed any lighting for what he was doing to pull off what he did. If you're overexposed, you have too much light straight ahead, too low, you can see just right. These are all just playing with lighting, their position and how many you have. Now you'll see here these two little desktops in the upper right-hand corner. These are small little 2-point lights. You can adjust their brightness, so you can make one a key light, one a fill. And they have these little inserts so that you could put, let's say, a white insert to diffuse it. So not bad. 2 little lights, you can plug them in via USB and have them illuminating you, but you might not even need that. On the bottom right is one of my favorite devices that I recommend to people, and it's called a ring light. This is also an under $30 device that you can get them battery powered, you can get them to plug in, and all they're doing is creating both. They're mimicking your key light and your fill light. It's projecting light forward, which is your key light to illuminate you as a subject, and some of the fill light that's coming in from the ambient from the side not only helps your computer or your cell phone process that image better, but also makes you look better. When it comes to lighting, especially with virtual backgrounds, the amount of light that gets into your camera sensor, the more light, the better. It helps it distinguish and do less artifacting. So if you use a digital background without great light, try it one day. It will look absolutely terrible. The more light you add, the more crisp it becomes. Simple as that. So this ring light, if you did nothing else and you purchased a ring light, it will be one of the best investments you or your client ever did as far as lighting is concerned. Here's the other thing that I love about a ring light or any lights. Light has a temperature? It most certainly does. And the effect of that light temperature, it changes all color hues. It just does. So I threw that down here in the bottom right for you to kind of see the difference of just a painting in a room. That wall color is different. The hues in the painting are different. Every color in these pictures is different because of the lighting used. The ring light allows you to go between warm and cool light. It goes through this entire temperature range, kind of on a dial or a push button or pre-selected settings. The reason why this is important is because depending on your skin tone, warm light might make you look amazing, or cool light might make you look amazing. It differs skin tone to skin tone and what you're wearing. So if you have a ring light in front of you and you decide to wear something different that day and you turn on your video to preview and you're like, wow, this looks completely different. At least the ring light allows you to change the temperature of that light so that the color on video matches what you want it to. And it just adds that little extra professional touch. And again, ring light, under 30 bucks on Amazon. We're going to speed up a little bit to kind of get to the end because some of this will just be regurgitating some old information. But as far as camera mic options, what do you need to use? Simple. Any modern cell phone, laptop, or desktop computer with a built-in webcam is good enough for Zoom. The device doesn't matter nearly as much as audio and lighting. So use the device you have, but supplement a wireless active noise canceling earbud or headset and just a ring light or 2 small desk lights that you can adjust the angle for.
Micah, we've notified
Yes.
everyone that they are welcome. They've been given their CLE. If they want to leave at 1 o'clock, that's fine, but that you are welcome to continue with your program. It's excellent. It's being recorded, and they can stay if they like or watch it later. So it's totally in your control.
Oh, that is amazing. In that case, I will slow down just a tad, but not too terribly much. For those that might be looking to leave soon, I think we're within 5 slides. So we're almost there at the end. So continuing on, we really only have clothing, behavior, and a brief wrap up. So clothing's huge. It's often overlooked, and yet easy to fix. So I'm gonna, before I get to kind of things to skip in the why, I love this image. You don't need to look professional all the way down. If you're ever in a position to give client a recommendation of what they should wear, please always tell them to look professional all the way down. They can use jeans, right? They can use even shorts. You don't want that person that has everything set up right here on video. They're ready to speak. They look great top down. And all of a sudden they're asked a question and it's like, oh, hold on, I've got that right over here. And they get up to go pick up a piece of paper at another desk and now have flashed the entire audience. And I've seen this on a corporate call before. They just forgot. Every day they're dressed professionally, hips up. The one day they had to turn around and move out of frame to go get something. Boxers. Most people just laugh at that, right? But again, first impressions, I would always recommend dress all the way down, just in case. It's one less thing to have to remember, have to worry about. But for as far as what we would want to wear on video, you want to skip certain colors for certain reasons. Green. If you ever use a green screen, any green in your entire will subtract out. Even if you're using a virtual background, sometimes because you're wearing green and it's thinking that that might be a chroma green, it's going to remove it. And it's going to be hugely distracting when you just have voids in your tie or your blouse or something else because you wore a green pen and now you have a black mark right here for your entire presentation because the computer's trying to subtract it out thinking that it's supposed to be a green screen. White. White is interesting. If you ever see someone that wears pure white, a full white shirt or just blouse, and they're being lit with artificial light, that white is going to reflect that light back, and it's going to help overexpose the image. And what's happening is while you're brightening that image, you're adding another factor that you're trying to account for just because you wore white. Same thing as if you wore black, you have the opposite. Black absorbs more light, and it can create a really harsh effect between the subject, their background, etc. However, these aren't absolutes. Nothing ever is. If you're wearing a black blouse, do you have something to put over it to add color, add dimension, to reduce the amount of black on screen? Perfect. Same thing with white. Stay away from green. In general, green's almost never good. Wrinkles. There's been a lot of work from home since COVID. There's been a lot less ironing I've noticed on video post-COVID. And depending on your lighting, wrinkles cast shadows more so than in person. Just something to be aware of. I notice more wrinkles on people than almost anything else because when they're wrinkled, it shows up that bad on video. And then, of course, complicated patterns, right? So they can, of course, be distracting, but worse. Not only can they confuse virtual backgrounds, they can make your audience kind of ill. So think of somebody that's wearing like a tartan or like a paisley jacket, and they're using a virtual background. Well, the computer's trying. What's that? Say that again.
I think it was just an error.
Ah, got you. Thank you, Lisa. I can't, as I said earlier, see anyone. So If you're wearing like a paisley coat or something else with just really in-depth pattern, and you're using a virtual background, well, your computer is trying to decide what's background and what's you. And when there's too much for it to figure out, it can cause, it's called a moire effect. And it's kind of like a dancing, like some of the pixels are just moving and dancing. And passively, if someone's really paying attention to you as a presenter, that can make them kind of motion sick and make them ill. You have less of that when you use a natural wall. But then again, if it's distracting, it's probably just distracting. And you can make better choices, or your client can make better choices. But in general, it's that, right? You're just looking your best on screen, avoid certain colors. And again, if you preview a video, and we're gonna talk about this in a moment, before you ever get on video, you're gonna be able to see how you look. And if it's the wrong color, you have a chance to change or fix lighting, etc. When we get to behavior, there's only a few things that I would remind a client, or if I'm giving a mentor or I'm mentoring, I'm giving advice on how are you going to do your first interview, your first virtual interview. These are the biggest things I want someone to know. The first one is set your camera correctly. You want your webcam at eye level. If your webcam's underneath you, you are now looking down on your audience, and they're going to notice. If it's too high and you're looking up, it's going to be strained angles. It's not going to seem natural. So keeping it within this, 15-degree area is all that you need to do. If you're using a cell phone, it's just putting it at eye level and never touching it. This is something I'm going to bring up in the next slide. But if you're going to have a client or you yourself appear virtually and use your cell phone, nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Make sure it's at eye height and mounted. Either it's on a tripod, in a shoe, somehow affects that you or your client, you're giving them advice, they're not touching it. There's nothing worse than someone either holding a cell phone while presenting, or they have it kind of balanced on a pillow and a cat runs by and knocks it over. Or they move and the jumpingness causes the video to kind of fluctuate. It's a laptop, stack of books, raise it up, easy peasy. Second thing is just going to be posture. Sitting up straight. Not only is it going to project confidence, but it's going to put your image perpendicular to your webcam, which is what you want. You don't want an angle between your webcam and you, because that's where you get funny things that you're looking at. You're looking up someone's nose, you're seeing different shadows, etc. So sitting up straight, well framed, camera eye height will go a long way. And really the last 2 points are wrapped up into one, and that's remember to smile. It's too easy to forget when you're presenting to not smile, or more so for your client, right? They're probably going to be nervous showing up on camera and answering questions. A little smile projects confidence, and also it's going to lighten them up a little bit. And I mentioned earlier, before most joined, when I was kind of chatting with Lisa, about helping people know where to look. The easiest thing to do, get a sticky note, draw a smiley face on the back side and stick it to the back of a computer right above where that camera is. That gives someone something to focus on. And, to the smiley face, also the remembrance to smile. This image originally had one of those, and I edited it out because they added notes, which not bad, but if you have notes, you're going to get caught shifting your eyes because you're trying to read small text above the camera. Just draw a smiley face, or better yet, buy a sticker of smileys and just stick a smiley right next to that camera. And tell your client, every time you speak, even when you're not speaking, what do you do with your eyes? Smile at the smile. It will keep them maintaining eye contact the entire time, naturally.
So Micah, we have a question, and it's something that you and I have talked about, is glasses. So we have someone that is using a ring light and they want to know, why they're getting this glare off of their glasses. What can folks with glasses do to avoid the glare?
That is a fantastic question. And there's, in my opinion, about two things that can be done together or kind of separately. One is you can get glasses with anti-reflective coating, which will help a lot. By default, most glasses being reflective, you're just going to see bright lights coming in. Anti-reflective lenses, going to be key. Second to that are just angles. All lighting is based on angles. So if your lights are at eye level in your frame, they're going to reflect off your glasses. Can you get your lights out of your frame so they don't reflect? Yeah. Can you adjust your camera so they don't reflect? Yeah. All that one needs to do is set up their system, and I'll remind us about this in a bit on wrapping this all together, but actually putting your camera on preview before you ever enter a meeting and sit there and playing with what does it look like. Putting your glasses on, being like, crap, that is a really bright, annoying spot that's distracting me, and I'm not gonna have to look at myself most of the time. I'm just gonna move it over here. It's gone. Ah, my light's a little bit off now. I'm gonna bring it closer to me so I have more light, but it's still out of frame and not gonna bounce off my glasses.
So I'm
if
also
you
going to
are-
add, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I thought you were finished. I'm going to add to that. It has to do with blue light blocking too. So for those of you that can see me, these are my blue light blockers. And so you can definitely see that there's a lot more blue in them. And these are my dollar store specials that have no blue light. And so these are my Zoom glasses. Now, clearly, if I do this, you're going to see the screen. But if I kind of keep them a little bit down, I can still see, and you're not getting such a glare off of my glasses. And I talked to my ophthalmologist or optometrist, and they can also they have now what they call Zoom glasses. So once you get your glasses that you really like, that you can see well on your screen, you can ask for them to be anti-reflective and anti-blue light just to use for Zoom, which would help with that problem. So
Not only that, blue light filter is gonna help with eye fatigue.
well,
The longer you look at a screen.
Well, blue light filter is what I do all the time, but when I'm on Zoom, it is really bad. Like there's no way for me to hide it. So I have my big spends of $1.25 for the crappy glasses from dollar store, but they work better for Zoom. So
Yeah, and I'm really happy that you brought that up, Lisa, because this is another example in where it's not going to take that much money to look your best. Like you said, cheap blue light filter glasses to help with the reflection.
well, you don't want the
Almost.
blue light filter on them. You, my friend, haven't had the experience of having to wear readers all the time in order to see something. So I have now learned this. So the cheap readers don't have any blue light cancellation, and that helps with Zoom because otherwise you can see blue light in the glasses because it's canceling. So anyway, that's my tip.
Love it. Love the tip. Lisa's got a lot of tips because Lisa's learned from previous presentations,
From
and
you.
it's amazing. It's amazing. All right, so we can kind of wrap up. Adjusting camera height. Tip 1, minding posture, remembering to smile and making eye contact. Easy peasy. If you got sound, you got video, and you do these, it should be a no-brainer. So putting it all together, if you were to give advice to someone brand new, choose the device type. What do they have? Are they using a laptop? Are they using a cell phone? Great, that's what they're going to use. Pair those with your active noise canceling headphones, install Zoom on the device, and launch the program. Now, I'm putting this in here as a reminder. I don't care if your client says, I have Zoom. Have them open Zoom a day before, the day of, they're expected to use it. Depending if you use an iPhone or I use Android, Android has this nasty habit. If I don't use a program for a couple of days, it puts it to sleep. If I don't use it for a few more days, it puts it to deep sleep. Deep sleep programs don't get updated. So if I need to use Zoom on my phone and I were to start it right now, it would have me update the program. Just like if I started it for the first time in a couple of weeks on my PC, it's going to have me now update the program. So you don't want somebody showing up 3 minutes before they should be on camera. And then it's like, oh crap, you've got updates. Because that will happen almost always. But then, right, Zoom's installed, Zoom is launched, go into settings and select video or backgrounds that should say backgrounds and effects. Either one is going to show a Zoom preview of what you look like on video easily. Right? So before you ever join, you can see it. If you use just video, you're just going to see what's behind you as a video camera. So if you're looking for natural wall space, perfect. If you're using a virtual background, launch the virtual background and see what it looks like. So now that you're previewing, you're going to walk around and find the best location that provides either a live background or best lighting for a virtual background. Also in this, you haven't done so already, it's just looking, where do you have the best signal? If you put your laptop down here and you have 3 more bars and the Wi-Fi meter over here, move location. But this allows you to live preview and see, if I were to do this presentation right now, I'll look good right here. That's where you're going to set up for your presentation. So you make sure you set it up so it's at eye level. If you're using a cell phone, again, mount it. And make sure your location, if you have the option, has a plug nearby. I don't care if you're on your cell phone or your laptop, no reason why you can't have either plugged in while you're in that meeting. You don't want things to run out of power, and there's no reason for it, especially cell phones. So you can have a cell phone plugged in while using it, same with a laptop, just a thing to remember. Make sure that the seating is adjusted so that, the subject is well framed, comfortable. You don't want them sitting at the edge of their seat for an hour and a half and fidgeting a lot. And then, if necessary, you're going to add your lighting or adjust it for optimal effect. If you're in a bright lit room, you might not need anything, or you might need a little fill light. You might be in an office space, or you could just be, the only private room I have is this junk room, which isn't well lit. Your client can find a spot in there with appropriate lighting, adjust the lighting a little bit while they're previewing themselves so they can see what looks best, and that's what they're going to use. You're good to go. And then you just remind them, relax, smile, make eye contact, and unmute when necessary. I kind of threw down here a pro tip for parents, because I saw this a lot with corporate clients. When you're using a shared computing device, always log into Zoom before you need to, and make sure everything's good. Kids, especially kids that were using Zoom for remote learning, often mess around with filters or backgrounds or settings. There's kids that are playing around, and now you show up and you have no idea where these sunglasses, these virtual sunglasses that are now just pinned on you came from, or how to turn them off. Having kids mess up settings that aren't caught has happened more than a handful of times in the past 2 years that I've seen on video. And it's usually kind of funny for the 5 to 10 minutes to wait for them to figure it out, or they'll drop and use a different device. So if you're a parent, you have a shared device, kids are using it, just got to make sure to check. Let your clients know to check. So again, on all of this, relatively cheap. The only things that most people would need to add, if you're not using something like a MacBook, is going to be active noise canceling Bluetooth headset and like a ring light. So as a wrap up, presenting your best self is easy and low cost. Only requires a little forethought and preparation. Any modern cell phone is plenty for Zoom. Any modern MacBook is plenty for Zoom. Any modern webcam is plenty for Zoom. Take those worries out. Most already have the technology and can supplement for little to no cost. A quick search on Amazon. Sound. Active noise canceling earbuds range from 50 to 150. For Zoom, there is no difference in this price range. You're not going to hear the difference from the presenter on these devices. And lighting, 10-inch ring light, $23. Get it tomorrow from Amazon. And then kind of the last salient point that drove this entire talk is you never get a second chance, right, to make a first impression. So what's a good first impression worth in your field? And with that, Lisa and Co., I thank you all so much for your time. I know we went over by 15 minutes, but hopefully this was useful information for not only yourself, but also for clients that you might have to, give a little advice. So with that, Lisa, I will humbly turn this back over to you, but I will still be on for another 15 or more if there are questions, comments, anything you'd like to discuss with me before I hop off.
You want to stop sharing your screen so you can see us, and if anyone has any questions, they can pop on. So you're not by your lonesome anymore.
I can see people again. By the
Does
way,
anybody have
fun
any
fact, if you're
questions?
going to use Zoom only on a single screen instead of having multiple screens set up, apparently your Zoom screen controls are going to show up over your presentation unless you hide them.
Was that because you had two screens going?
No, I typically have 2 to like 4 screens going, but to practice what I preach, I am on a single laptop with an active noise canceling Bluetooth headset and a single key light behind me on Wi-Fi. If I was in the office with 5 lights and everything else and hardwired, I'd look damn good for no good reason.
Stan, did you have a question?
Yeah,
Stan.
two questions. First of all, is this audio okay? Does it sound okay?
Yes.
Okay.
It does.
I'm using a Brio webcam. The second question is, I have a blurred background, and is there any reason I just use that? It's easy to set up, easy to select. Is there any reason why clients couldn't just use the blurred background or attorneys?
Depends on what they're blurring. So for you, you have some programs have multiple levels of blurring, and you have great blurring going on, let's say. The only issue I might have with your blurring is that big black rectangle behind what I perceive to be your left shoulder.
That's my grand piano, but that's okay. That's not what people will normally be seeing. Anyway. I have to use a U.S. trustee approved background, so it won't matter.
But the question I have to you, Stan, if you were to move that camera, just twist it away from that piano, 1/2 inch to 1 inch, would you have a more consistent, uniform background without that?
Good point.
I don't think we're seeing a piano stand. I think we're seeing a doorway. So Micah's suggestion is moving the camera a touch avoids the door and keeps that white behind.
I understand what you're saying. And by the way, this is not what anyone will see. And that is the lid of the
Oh, okay.
The blurred looked good.
Yeah, it did.
It really did. Your camera is good.
Now,
I'm glad, Stan, that you brought that up because I didn't mention it in here, but I've used successfully blur on my own backgrounds a lot. I'm not using it today, and I thought to do so, but through my blur, you would see an I-beam above my head. You would see the ceiling fan, and while blurred, you'd still see the ceiling fan currently spinning.
Yeah, and this isn't going to be my background. I have to have a U.S. trustee approved background that I'll use when conducting my meetings of creditors. So just to let you know, this is not what you'll be seeing.
But the camera is still really good. Like the lighting, it's
I
really good.
I have a studio quality light with a filter in front of me, and so that provides. And I have it high so it hides my turkey neck somewhat. You can't see that.
Now we know all the secrets.
A practical tip for us bankruptcy practitioners. In my case, I do all of my pre-bankruptcy filing meetings with my clients on Zoom. So for the first meeting, I always talk to them with the thought about appearing with the trustee now on Zoom later on. Let's talk about how to work your background and that kind of thing. And so that gives them an opportunity to get comfortable with it. So anyway, just a thought.
One other point, I just want to mention this briefly, and that is that even though there's a telephone number on the 341 meeting notice, and Dr. Wimmer, that's the notice that goes out in all cases that the debtors and all the creditors receive. The U.S. Trustees program has made it clear that they are not inviting people to use just a telephonic connection. I didn't know if that was common knowledge or not. I just wanted to make sure that it's known that as far as the program's concerned, it needs to be Zoom video and not just a telephonic connection.
Now, here's a question for the attorneys that are actually familiar with appearing on Zoom before a trustee. You may need to show up on video, but if you're having issues with video and then just drop to audio, will that suffice for the remainder of that particular meeting?
Again, I'll speak to that. The expectation is that there will be video. Now, we don't record the video, interestingly enough, so the official recording of the meeting is audio, just like it always has been. So frankly,
interesting.
no one is gonna know unless they happen to be watching whether the video maintains. The biggest issue with video is I need to be able to see someone affirmatively take the oath, and I need to be able to see their picture ID so I can confirm that against the documents that I previously received. So as long as I can do that, then that's fine. And same with attorneys, you know, they just need to enter their appearance. And frankly, I think a lot of this is just going to have to be common sense.
Well, I
So
want
our
to double
clerk's gonna
down
have
on
to-
something Diane said about Zooming with your client before the major event. I did have occasion, for my first Zoom with my client was at the 341 meeting, and they were at home and I was in my office, and there were some really, really nice paintings in the background that did not show up anywhere on the bankruptcy schedules. And, I'm sitting there panicking and not going to make an issue out of it at the moment. But as soon as the meeting was over, I was back on the phone with the client. Said, "You didn't say anything about paintings." Well, the paintings? Oh, that's just stuff that we draw. Well, that took it out of the zone of, deep worry. But, and they were not accomplished artists. But it's really good to have a Zoom with your client before then. Consider their background and also what they're wearing, because they a lot of them will never have had the advantage of having Micah tell them how and what.
Right.
So it's going to fall on us. Matter of fact, I might steal some of your materials, Micah, and send them to the clients and say, hey, here's some really, really great tips for you. Thank you very much. Great program.
So, and also what the UST put out, Jim, and everyone, they have like a Zoom link that our clients can go and practice on. And those are posted. Crystal had them on the listserv, but we should make sure that they're posted, Diane. They may already be posted, but they came from the US Trustee's office.
Yeah, there's a page on the website. It says 341 meetings, I do believe, and those handouts are on there under resources.
Are clients gonna stand to ask you a question? If are they gonna have to hold up their
No, they're not
cards?
permitted to.
No. In fact, they can't show any PII, personally identifiable.
Oh, so you're just gonna be like looking and saying like, oh, that looks like your picture.
Yeah, my staff has already started saving the identification documents in a separate folder, so I can easily access those, bring up the picture ID on my screen and look at them and say, just like in the old on-site 341 meetings, I can say, okay, I've confirmed that you are you, and then I've had my staff confirm the Social Security number earlier, so that's how we do that.
Stan, we really appreciate you being here to contribute, because this is all new for us, given the move over to 100% Zoom. And from Debtors Council, we're going, I don't know. So.
Oh, me too. Trust me, this is all new for us too. So it's going to be an interesting experience. I have great concerns about how this is going to work with not only pro se debtors, but even represented debtors, and how they're going to access Zoom and make it work properly. My intention, by the way, is to let everybody into the out of the media what do you call the holding area, the
meeting room.
Waiting room. The waiting room.
the meeting room into the session all at once, so I can give my introductory remarks, and then I'm going to try pinning the videos just for those who are participating in the particular meeting that I'm calling at the time, so that I'm not distracted by a bunch of other people showing up. It's been suggested that perhaps people can disenable their video when their meeting's not called. I don't know how that's going to work. The one thing I cannot do, by the way, which I found kind of interesting, I cannot unmute somebody. So you have to advise your clients that when it's time for them to talk, they will have to unmute their audio. Now, I'm not bringing everybody in muted, by the way. So the need to still not be talking in the background exists. But if someone's interfering, then I can mute them, but I can't unmute them. So they have to do that themselves. So just be aware of that.
Are you gonna have, I know that some of the chapter 13 trustees do not have a problem with folks being in their car if if they're not driving, of course, but if that's their only quiet place, do you have a problem with that?
All I care about is being able to see them clearly and see their identity document. I don't care where they are, but yeah, they need to be away from distracting noises and certainly people. And I find this more often than you would expect, that people will be driving while they're on their telephonic connection. I just go, pull over.
Yeah.
You need to, first of all, I don't want the background noise, and secondly, you shouldn't be driving when you're talking to me. So,
And
yeah,
you know, when that
you know.
Mercedes emblem shows up on the camera and there's no Mercedes on the
Jim,
schedules.
Jim, when you're talking about those paintings in the background, I was thinking that is a trustee's dream to be able to see all that expensive stuff in the background when I'm conducting that 341 meeting. That's what I live for. Thank you.
Crystal, what was the thing you just shared with us?
It's the 341 meeting page
Oh,
on the
yes,
website where
yes.
the handouts are from the US
Thank you.
trustee.
Okay.
You have to be logged in to see it, of course. It's members only page, but. Well, thank you again, Micah. I think we all thought this was wonderful. And we can all use these tips and employ them. Hopefully we all got our morsels that we can use going forward. This is perfect timing. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Quite welcome.
always,
So,
Micah. Thank you.
You are quite welcome. Anytime, Lisa. Thank you for
I
the input.
always get more nuggets from you every single time.
And this is being recorded. It will be available on the public side of ACBC's resources page, since we had lots of guests from outside our bankruptcy group. So thank you.
But also you can use it. I mean, we'll send you the YouTube link. You can use it however you want.
Yes, Micah.
And use it in your like consulting and stuff. It's for you as well.
Well, thank you.
By the way, Micah told me to have a better background. I was just being lazy today. I have screens that I put up and I turn on my ring light. So
Oh, hey, quickly, since there's still about 15 people here, Lisa.
you want me to turn on my ring light?
Yeah.
I am dressed all the way down, by the way.
Fantastic. Expect nothing less.
Okay, then I'll leave.
So amazing.
And I've turned it, I like it where I click on it and I go 3 down. And so there's like 4 settings. So I like it 3 down and the third, whatever it is. And I can also, oh, wrong one.
There's dimming you're talking about?
Yeah.
There.
That's when I have my 3 points up.
Yep, that looks good.
Looks really good. That looks really good.
I was just, and I have, I do know that this is distracting. So I have screens that I put up because the blur to me just feel like, I don't know. I don't care for it on myself.
It looks blurred.
So, Micah, candidly, this is just a fake background for me. Is that distracting? You can't even read the titles.
I've used library scenes in the past. What you're using right now, Jim, is perfectly fine. It could be better though.
I think you should use a federal bench, a court bench.
They turned me down.
I will recommend.
That's all right. You can still use it, right?
You'll recommend what?
I will recommend what type of image you should or shouldn't use, but the tip for you, Jim, that I would have is if you could make that background image slightly smaller or make it appear so that it's further behind you to add depth. That's the only issue that I have with yours is you and Crystal have the same thing going on. Crystal doesn't have well, she does, but it's so solid colored that it's flat. So when Crystal's not moving, she looks 2D. When you're not looking, you kind of look 2D because it's just too flat. Versus like Diane, because there's those chairs in the back, it adds depth. That picture window is definitely behind her somewhere. Lisa's using a real image, which makes it a little bit better than others on the call. Even though that red is distracting, Lisa with her ring light on, it looks so clear. Her color tone is so on point.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be as distracted by that red. Whereas when she has her ring light off, Lisa looks dark.
I
She
hope-
looks like she just kind of showed up at her desk, didn't turn any lights on. Now that red is more impactful. So for you, you're wearing green today, and it's not a type of green that I'd say you shouldn't wear, because you'll never be mistaken for a green screen. But you have a lot of those dark forest green tones in your background, which is helping to like wash you
But I
out.
think I think that your lighting on your face is good.
That is spot on.
I mean, I think you look really good, Jim.
Well, thank you. Now, I hope nobody missed the cat that passed
Yeah,
across
that
Lisa's
was
desk.
sneaking by.
Okay, Kelly, I'm not sure what you're talking about. The last two links on 341 page are broken. I'm on that page right now and they're not broken.
Ditto. They all open and download for me.
Huh,
So maybe they don't like you.
they don't. I logged in but I'm clicking on acceptable photo ID and social security number proof, and it comes, sorry, the document requested is not available.
That's odd. Or
Okay,
maybe
so
a
you
glitch.
you are logged in as a member.
Yeah, I just checked and I'm going into the forums and I'm seeing stuff there.
Um,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just personal.
It
Stan,
is.
do you have the documents that we're talking about that the UST put out?
I probably do.
No, I was asking Stan.
I think so. I think they included that in the materials, but I will click on your link or if you just want to forward those to me, that'd be great.
So Kelly, I think I have your email address. I will email both of them to you and Stan, so you have them.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I would have to log into your site to get those. So if you can email those,
I'll just
would
send
like
them
to
to you.
I would like to see what they've provided to you guys. That would be helpful. Now, they supposedly had some training. Did that
Yes.
take place already?
Yes,
Was
yes,
it-
Eileen and her show.
Was it
End of comment.
useful at all? Was it useful?
End of comment.
Okay,
It was long.
that's said. It
There
was
was also, they provided us a document that we think is really for you. So when I send you the document, would you tell me if that's something that the trustees use? Because we were really confused by it.
Well,
It's like
was it the identification document affidavit or something
it's like
like
a declaration of who gave the
Yeah,
oath.
so let me just tell you what that is.
Yes, please.
Because if for some reason you have a client, and we're concerned about this with pro se's who just cannot appear by video because they live up somewhere, in the middle of nowhere with no good internet access and so forth. That has to be completed and notarized in order for that debtor's ID to be accepted and proof of social security number. So that's why we want to get everybody on video so that we don't have to go through that process, because that means you guys are gonna have to do extra work if that happens, because they'll have to go get notarized. Or the alternative is they can go to an office of the U.S. trustee and get that person to confirm. Now, first of all, I don't even know who's in the office of U.S. trustees anymore. They're all working virtually. And secondly, we got people that live 4 hours from a U.S. trustee office. So anyway, it's just more stuff that they're requiring because they can.
So Stan, are you, do you know Tammy Johnson at the Self-Help Center at the Bankruptcy Court?
I do, just I know of her. I have not worked with her, but a debtor recently had been bothering her quite a bit.
With your permission, I would like to email Tammy to say, give you a call, because she needs to have this insight as people, who come in, they're pro se's and all. So would you mind chatting with her and kind of laying out a little bit of this for her?
Sure, or you can just let her know. I mean, just tell her when you contact her, say, look, the trustees have been advised that video is expected, and that if audio only is desired, that additional steps will be required. It will be somewhat onerous to satisfy those steps. So my inclination at this point is if a pro se shows up by telephone, I'll just continue it and say, you really need to get and have that conversation with them and say, can you get to someone who can help you get on Zoom, a video call, because either that day or on a different day, because it's just a hassle to deal with it otherwise. And I think they'll be happier if they can just get someone's help to appear Zoom. You know what really needs to happen? There needs to be a spot at the bankruptcy court in the clerk's office where they can have these, at the self-help center, where they can go appear and have a Zoom connection there. Just a thought, since you're so involved with that process, and make it easy and say, hey, just show up and we'll do your 341 meeting here. We'll have a Zoom connection for you. You won't have to try to figure it out yourself. Just a
That
thought.
is a phenomenal idea.
Yeah, and there is an extra office, I believe. I'm going to run it by Tammy, but Stan, please, I'm going to give her your contact information.
Oh, that's
It's
fine. Yeah,
always
she can
better
always
to have point to point than through 3 or 4 different points.
have her email me. It's easier for me to respond by email.
All right.
Yeah,
Yes,
which email would you like us to use?
Anyone that you have.
Okay. I didn't know if there was a favored one. Kelly, I need your email address because apparently I don't have it. So if you could just type it in the chat for me.
Yep, will do.
Trustee@aztrustee.com is my typical work email, but for some reason, Comcast tends to block that. So I have to respond on a Gmail address and so forth. But you can just use that and I'll at least receive the email.
say that again.
Trustee@aztrustee.com.
Okay, thank you.
This has been very helpful, by the way. I really appreciate you inviting me to participate. I thank you for that. And thanks for the wonderful insights, Dr. Wimmer. Those have been great. And by the way, I like your background now much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
That
is
is very
nice.
cool.
Is there a tap over there on the left?
Hey, it is Friday
Might be.
afternoon. Like,
There might be.
See your skis back there.
you can have some Miller time, Micah. Thank you so much for doing this.
Okay,
I
we're
will tell
getting a
you,
note. We're
on
getting a
this
note over
background with
here,
Diane,
Micah. So a note saying that the state bar CLE requirements mandate bios be included in the materials. So if you wouldn't mind, go back to your, and what we used as your materials was the PDF of your slides. Could you make sure you've got a slide with your background, with your bio in it? And if not, redo it and I'll post it. Just send it to me and I will post it on the ACBC website.
Can we just add a bio?
Well,
Micah, if you're good with the bio that I have from 2020, I'll just send it over to Diane.
Well, I need it in the PDF.
Okay.
Okay.
I wasn't aware that that was a requirement.
I wasn't either, but
I don't think it
by
is.
default, we do bios on every single person, so it's never come up.
Okay.
Lisa, do me a favor, send me what you got. I'll just add it to an end slide for you, re-PDF it, send it back over to you, Diane. So
Perfect. Thank you.
I will
We'll
email it
over-index
to
on it.
you when we get off.
Perfect.
This
Yeah,
has been
I'll
very
hop on that.
productive. Very, very productive. And Stan, having you here just makes it so much better. So let your fellow trustees know that this is a video that is publicly available and they are all welcome to take a look at it.
Yeah, it can be
Thank you. I
posted.
appreciate it, but just email me and I'll shoot an email to the group. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Send me a link. Yeah. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Yes, sir.
So
All right,
last comment,
Okay.
since someone liked this background, the reason why I keep a handful of backgrounds around is because playing around with what you want to get from your audience, the thing that I love to do. There are some backgrounds that, because my lighting in here is more warm, putting a background with warm lighting in it helps trick the eye. That I have a few backgrounds that I've used that people will ask, are you in a cabin right now? Because they can't tell that it's a virtual background.
Right.
So if you're using cool light and use a cool light more background, it helps you blend in. Warm light background. It gives that little just trick as if these lights are adding to the effect, even though they're obviously not.
That's nice.
Little end of presentation pro tip. But again, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Diane. Diane, thank you for your patience as well. Lisa's been on me for materials, and as always, you get them last minute because that's what scientists do.
He was polishing.